Hi everyone. Today's top stories include another thing about the Apple App Store issue, and the basic account here has said it's about an absence of choice. Elon Musk has said Tesla will delay their Battery Day event and their shareholders meeting. And Google has ended a trial of photo service about picked and printed photos for their users. This is down at Digital World. My name is Luke. Let's get started. Also, stick around to the end. I'm going to do a very small preliminary Stadia overview of my experience over the last week. If you want a TLDR, unneedable. But for TLDR, wait till we hear the full review. Let's get started. Okay, so just quickly before we get into our first story of the day, I want to let you know I am going to be going back to the intermissions where I record a story, intermission, record a story, intermission. Again, if I get enough people saying that they don't like it, that will be changed. But as of now, it's just much easier for me to record the stories I found. I've done a small comparison with this episode, and I found it much easier for me to record with intermissions where I can read over the story again before I record, and then record what's going through the story. It makes it much easier for me to go over it. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So this story is coming courtesy of Engadget, and it's basically from Basic Account CEO, who's written an open letter explaining a real problem with the App Store payment policies. It's not just that Apple requires 30%. Yes, it does. Yes, that is obviously a large part of the story, especially for a company putting forward an app like this that is charging $100 US. You wouldn't charge that unless you kind of needed it. But apparently it's more start quote about the absence of choice and how Apple forcibly inserts themselves between the company and its customer, end quote. Now, for those of you who haven't heard previous episodes, basically they recently released a multi-platform email service called Hey. It costs $99 a year, and to be able to use it you have to pay a subscription. It didn't sit well with Apple, however, who rejected a bug fix after the company tried to roll out that same bug fix shortly after Hey's launch. In a letter, Apple said that they were rejecting an appeal on its decision because they must offer in-app purchasing as a way for customers to unlock features and functionality. Now, I see two sides to this actually, and this is something I've recently come into seeing a bit more. I'm not saying I agree with Apple's 30%. Now, 30% should not be forceful, but actually my main problem with Apple is the way that they're doing this. So they're saying that there's no way for if your customer, their wording is your customer has to have a way to pay, but the only way that your customer can pay through the iOS app has to be our payment option. So they're rejecting bug apps because it's technically unusable without it, I think is TLDR, and also because they want the money. But the problem is, if you don't give them the choice of saying, okay, you can either go here or you can pay for Apple, give the customer a choice. If you really need it that badly, you might be able to argue a case of them having the customer having the option to either use the in-app purchase or go straight to the company's website. Now, personally, I still don't think that's enough choice, but it would at least be a place for Apple to start. So he said that basically due to the absence of choice in how Apple is forcibly inserting itself between the company and the consumer. So Apple takes a 30% commission on any paid apps and any in-app purchase. I'm personally not very happy with it, and I actually was watching Linus Tech Tips. Huge shout out if you're interested in technology tinkering and stuff. Definitely go check out their channel on YouTube. They're an amazing channel. And they actually said that they have experienced a thing that's very similar. So They're related to a company called Floatplane. Now, Floatplane is an alternative media service that you have to pay a permanent subscription for, but it's on a channel-by-channel basis. So, say you only want to listen to, or watch, I should say, Linus Tech Tip videos and some other videos. To listen to those, you would have to pay a small subscription fee. In exchange for that subscription, you get any videos that they publish. Well, it depends on the channel, but for Linus Tech Tips, you get videos about a week earlier. So if you want to see the videos earlier, you get an extra week. So that would probably put you behind on some content, but you can easily catch that up if you're willing to binge. And there's a lot of that whole, and every kind of channel has a subscription in it. However, and that money goes to, I'm not sure on the cut if they take a cut or not. I think they do take a small cut of money just to keep the service running, but I don't think it's a big cut. Anyway, the problem that Linus Tech Tips has with it is they can't submit bug fixes, same as the Hey app, Basecamp can't for Hey. They can't submit a bug fix for Floatplane because they don't offer a way to do those subscriptions for it. A lot of people will say, well, duh, you have to kind of comply with Apple's rules. The fact is, for a lot of companies, myself included, don't forget, as I have said multiple times, I am launching a game still, no details yet. That, if you want to listen to, hopefully give me a month. Tomorrow will be the full Stadia review, so give me about a month and it will be fully ready. But the fact is, for small developers or startup companies, 30% of their revenue is just not sustainable. I know personally, if I were to give away 30% of my revenue, I only may say £1, £1. If I make £1 and I have to give away 30% of that £1, I get 70p. Personally, I don't think that's right. You may have a very different opinion, but personally, I don't think that's right. So, it's saying that it will only roll out a bug fix. Basecamp tried if it revises the Hey email app. And they said that they have no plans, and this is actually new, I didn't realise this, but Phil Schiller had said that they have no plans to accommodate the developer by changing its policies. They also said that it was approved in error. So, they literally, they are currently feeding me, they're completely feeding it. Anyway, the CEO said that they did expand on what he meant by absence of choice. He said that if Hey's customers sign up through the App Store, Basecamp will no longer be able to offer, quote, refunds, credit card changes, discounts, trial extensions, hardship exceptions, comps, partial payments, non-profit discounts, educational discounts, downtime credits, tax exceptions, and a lot more, end quote. It can't extend trials or payment terms for those who need it, like it does for its project management software customers, for instance, or offer free versions for people like first responders. That's actually quite a big deal. I read this about 5 minutes ago, and I'm still quite shocked about it, as you can probably see from the way I'm kind of reacting. I'm still quite shocked by this. So the way that Apple's payment process works is that it actually causes a lot of differences that a company might make, and all of these things that they include are very different good things for them to include. Actually, I'm actually quite glad that they do include it. It also said it won't be able to transfer payment information from one platform to another. If they switch platforms from iOS to Android, they may end up losing their email address, losing access to their email address and everything in their inbox. Which is why they have a universal, non-platform specific centralized billing system. That actually makes a lot more sense. See, because if you do it through Apple, your payment processing is going through Apple. Your account is very different to how it's done. Your account is very different how it'll be done through their website. So this is the end of Fry's letter. Start quote. So what do we want? I'm not saying IIP shouldn't exist or shouldn't be an option. For some businesses, it might make great sense. It might make sense. Don't get me wrong. It would make sense for me. Pause quote. Don't get me wrong. It would make sense for me. I would probably do it if it wasn't as high as 30% on every purchase or in-app purchase. I know it sounds like I'm being a bit nitpicky. Personally, I prefer that they just scrap the 30% rate and just let developers get it. I mean, don't forget, that's $100 a year. I pay Google one 15 quid fee. 15 quid. Done. And then, okay. I pay 15 quid, and then I understand why they have a percentage of money taken. Like, they have a right to take a percentage because they don't get an ongoing fee from me. So I think, if I'm selling in-app purchases, I'm fine to go to Google because they're not taking a yearly fee of $100. Apple, they're already getting $100 every year, so I can have the privilege of putting my app on an app store which frankly has about 13% of consumers. I'm just saying, Apple has 13% of consumers on its device, so it's nowhere near the dominant phone platform. And they charge 30%. Now, that could be because they have less users, but the fact is, you're still getting $100 a year. And almost every developer will put their app on there. So, that's a heck of a lot of money. And then if people are doing subscription, then after the first year, it becomes 15%. That's still a lot of money. So, anyway, let's resume quote. So, resume quote. For some businesses, it might make sense. If Apple is sending you all your customers, it probably does make sense. The 30% rate is still highway robbery, as Congressman. I'm going to get this wrong, but Congressman Cicilline, I'm not sure. Sorry, Cicilline, I don't know. Anyway, recently said in an interview, but the fundamental problem for us is a lack of choice. Apple, please give your developers the choice. Let us build our own customers for our own system so we can help them with extensions, refunds, discounts, or whatever else our own way. It's our business, not your business. And Phil Schiller's suggestion that we should raise prices on iOS customers to make up for Apple's added margin is antitrust gold. End quote. You know what? That last sentence. Start quote. Phil Schiller's suggestion that we should raise our prices on iOS customers to make up for Apple's added margin is antitrust gold. End quote. That literally sums up the entire case, basically. Apple expects you to raise your prices on iOS, and don't forget, this is especially worrying if they charge a competitive service. So Apple TV, they charge a competitive service, hence Amazon Prime, Netflix. They charge a competitive service now with the Apple TV Plus. And they had the same restrictions before Apple TV Plus, but they now charge a competitive service. And the fact is, if those wanted to, and don't forget, they have the exception, they don't have to do it, but they still can't link to how to sign up. They're not allowed to say how to sign up. You just say you have to sign up out of the app. They can't say go to this web address to do it. They just have to say you have to sign up outside of the app. It's actually really, in my opinion, really wrong. So, and the problem is though, you do say increase that 30% rate, increase by 30% to adjust for Apple's rate, so you still get the same amount of money. That's literally saying you're on iOS, Apple is charging us tax, so we have to put that tax on customers. Companies don't want to do that. See, a lot of people think, well, companies only care about their bottom line. And to an extent, yeah, I would personally agree on that to an extent. Like, companies, of course, they need their money. That's what they can keep running to provide you with, hopefully, a great service. But the fact is, some developers are choosing not to do this. They're choosing to do it their own, so they don't have to charge you a markup, and they can charge you a normal price. So, I just think when we're saying to developers that, oh, you're charging more on iOS, but you're charging less on Android, if they are doing that, then it's just they actually are still only getting the same amount of money as if they were charging you on Android. And if they're charging you the same amount as they are on Android, on iOS, then I definitely think you should say, or at least acknowledge to think about it in your head about the developer saying, we're willing to cut some of our profits just so that you don't have to pay more than an Android user, even though we know that we're going to lose some of our money. I know it sounds like, oh, well, you should just be willing to eat it. Like, they shouldn't know, because this is their platform, and at the end of the day, these people who are signing up for these apps are not Apple customers. If I sign up for Hey, I don't want to pay Apple to use a service created by another company. I want to pay that company. If I use Spotify, I don't want to pay Apple 30% of Spotify's revenue to use Spotify. I want to pay Spotify to use Spotify. I don't want to pay another company who will then pay the other company. I want to pay the company that's creating the service. So, that's my personal opinion. But yeah, Basecamp definitely do have a very big leg to stand on, and I hope Apple do make a change before it's too late for them and they get forced into it. Anyway, that's today's first story, so let's get on to our next one, which is about Tesla. So, it's not the best, but actually I'm just going to go straight into it. It's not really enough for intermission between these three. So, I just gave it a quick read. It's like barely that long. Basically, on July 7th, Elon Musk was going to hold a Battery Day event, as well as its shareholders meeting, as it was slated for July 7th. Wait, what? Okay, right, sorry. So, the shareholders meeting was slated for July 7th, and where they were going to give details about and an event where they were going to reveal details about the million-mile battery was planned for April. So, both of these events are now pushed back to a date sometime after July 4th. Now, they also had a question about whether the Cybertruck would be at the shareholder meeting, and they said they will have to postpone annual shareholder meetings and no large gatherings allowed by July 7th. Not sure a new date, but I'm guessing maybe a month or so later. So they're saying possibly August, which, isn't too badly. However, he later also added that Tesla would likely combine the shareholders meeting with the Battery Day event, and it'll probably be held in Fremont, California, where Tesla has a factory. Musk did tell investors and analysts earlier this year that the information about the battery tech will blow your minds. It blows my mind. To start quote, will blow your mind. It blows my mind. End quote. Tesla held a similar event focused on self-driving technology in April 2019. So, yeah, you can see what I mean by it being a very short story. I was literally able to read it over just by scrolling it in 2 seconds. So, yeah, I obviously understand this. Let's go on to today's final story. Just quickly, Google ended a trial of a photo service that picked and printed photos for users. Now, it's ending on June 30th, but there's no word if Google will relaunch it in the future, so it doesn't mean that it's dead for good, I guess. Now, it costed $8 a year, and you got 10 4x6 prints from the first 30 days. So if you wanted to get prints every month, then it was a good way to get kind of 10 photos every month, which was nice if you say put together photo books often. It also allowed users to choose which themes the service would priorities in prints. So you could do people and pets, landscapes, a little bit of everything, which was half the options. Now, although they will be ending the trial program, they say that they hope you have experienced some joy from the prints you've received along the way. There's no definitive answer whether it will be relaunched more widely, or if it's just been shelved indefinitely. However, I do have to say this timing around, printing stuff, especially around the time of COVID and everything, I'm not too surprised that they're ending it around now. Because obviously to print it, when you think about it, you've got like people touching the photos to try and get them in boxes and stuff. It just makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, personally, I never really got a chance to use it. I didn't even know it existed. So, I'm hoping that they do relaunch it, because it could be nice actually to do, but Google Photos does still have, as far as I can, it does currently, I'm not sure if this is also ending, currently in it also has the option for you to just pick your own photo book. I'm not sure if that will be ending as well. I don't know if those are different programs, but I'm assuming they're very different, as this one appears to only be available in the US. Yeah, it only launched in the US in February, so it seems to be a very limited program. So those are today's 3 top stories. Now let's get on to Stadia. Okay, so for the final part of today's episode, I just kind of want to go into Google Stadia and my preliminary my first impressions of it in terms of what I've used it for a week. So I'm going to use it on and off for a week. I could not use it coherently. I'll get into it in a minute, but tomorrow I'm going to spend the whole day with it. So I'm going to spend the whole day doing a lot of gaming on there because I got tomorrow actually free. Then over the next week when I'm actually free, I'll just spend a bit of time just pop onto my phone, do a bit of Stadia gameplay. I'll also do some xCloud just so I can draw a comparison between the two. I won't use PS now because it actually costs a fair bit, and I don't think there's actually many current PS4 games last time I checked. But preliminary, so I've also used it on my computer a bit, so there I am coming at it from 2 different devices. On my phone, this was common with xCloud and Stadia. There was a little bit of input lag. However, I have to say I do believe it was worse with Stadia. Now you might think, oh, I'm using an Xbox controller for Stadia and I'm using it for xCloud. The fact is that it's always connected via Bluetooth, so in theory the platform shouldn't be different. The platform shouldn't actually matter as much. I would do a Stadia controller, but they're like 70 quid, and I just don't have that to spare for what is probably going to be a couple weeks trial testing. I just don't have that. So I'm going to go using an Xbox controller, which is something everyone has. And if you're looking for the base entry point right now, I still recommend an Xbox controller unless you want to do TV streaming. So current state of Stadia, you have Stadia on your Chromecast Ultra, any Google Chrome browser. That's any Google Chrome browser on any PC platform, as far as I'm aware. And you also have it on, I think it's technically now on all Android devices, but they do say it's experimental. So they say it's still experimental or beta. Now, because of that, however, with Stadia, I still can't say that I'm testing a beta product. With Stadia, I'm testing a full-fledged product, as I would still call it full-fledged. Google isn't calling Google Stadia a beta. xCloud is still a beta, so there's still a bit more leniency for it to have the glitches it has. So let's go into why I'm so disappointed in this. And to be honest, I am quite disappointed with the state of it. So I'm going to go back to the first reveal. It would promise to have minimal latency, Wi-Fi controller on any device, whether you're on your phone, your PC or your Chromecast Ultra. You weren't meant to need to use Bluetooth or need a wire. You were just meant to be able to do Bluetooth. That is not... No, sorry, I don't think there's ever going to be Bluetooth support. I think you're just supposed to use it just with Wi-Fi. No wires, no nothing needed. Only a wire needed to charge it. That is true for TV and now Google Chrome. However, as far as I can tell as far as I can see on phones, it's still not supported with just the Wi-Fi. So that's a bit of a letdown if you were using Stadia controller. As for other features, I've tried to, some of them kind of are filling out. Problem is, they charge, I can't remember how much they charge for it, but they charge a lot of money for people who are buying in early. And then you're basically buying access to a beta. It ended up being access to a beta product that was very laggy, very buggy. Some people didn't receive their start code, so they couldn't actually start until a certain amount of time after they got it. It was really not a very strong start for Stadia. Now, I've been using xCloud in probably around the same time period that Stadia has been out. And I've been using it kind of intermittently, so it's not like I'm using xCloud daily or anything. I'm not a daily xCloud user. I first got access during Exo 2019, but ever since, I would definitely say that whilst yes it is laggy and yes it does glitch sometimes, I'd definitely say I would feel I have a finer control on my xCloud experience than I have had on my Stadia experience. So if I could put video on here I would, but that's not really possible with podcasts. It's complicated, so if I could then I would, but basically on Stadia, when I went to go downwards with my controller on my phone, it went all the way down to the bottom of the menu screen. This was in Destiny 2. I was in the middle of a firefight and I've changed my weapon over because I need to change my weapon really quickly. And when I changed my weapon, and when I went to change my weapon, it went all the way down to the bottom. This happened 3 or 4 times. When I finally managed it, I eventually managed to clip my weapon, and then when I was back in the game, it was a little bit more responsive in the actual game, but in the menu it wasn't very as responsive as I would have liked. I swapped over to xCloud. In xCloud it happened once, and then it was a lot better after that first try. So that's where I'm drawing my comparison in terms of responsiveness, that main instance. But to me, I found Stadia completely unusable. I found xCloud fairly usable. Also with Stadia, I would occasionally get it just goes completely black and it just rebuilds the frame in front of me. In xCloud again, what it does blur, it never goes completely black and rebuilds from the top downwards. It blurs, but you can still carry on playing decently. My PC experience. I use an Ethernet connection just going through my house's electrical system. So I've did on an Ethernet connection and all of my other Wi-Fi works fine. So all my data connections on everything else with my computer, I'm using it right now to record this podcast. Everything else works fine. I can do anything else I need to do. When I went on Stadia, it said that your connection is not stable enough to be used. That, to me, now this is on an Ethernet connection on a Linux PC. So I am on Linux, yes, but the fact is that shouldn't matter, it's still running the basic Chrome browser. When I was on my Android phone I didn't get that. I was on Wi-Fi. Again, another red flag. That is 2 red flags for Stadia so far. The fact that it still doesn't have official support for all Android phones, even xCloud launched with it. And the fact that on an Ethernet connection it's saying your connection is not stable. It may only be around 20 to 30 megabits per second, which I still think is fairly decent. I actually got an upgrade 4 straight game streaming to start coming in. However, that is fine for my phone on Wi-Fi with xCloud. Yes, you get a warning every once in a while, but for most of the time it's still fully playable. Only when you got a good 3 or 4 concurrent video streams does xCloud become unplayable. Google Stadia, I had something going on my iPad and Stadia. I have not tried it on Windows. I do use Windows, but not very often. However, I will give it a try on Windows with my next 3 weeks of review time. I've just seen too many red flags with Stadia so far. The fact that I'm currently on a Pro free trial, so there you go. I should be in, so I can actually have access to the 4K tier. I don't think I've ever reached it. I don't have a display that can reach it anyway, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, that's not too good. Also, GeForce Now. I've been in the GeForce Now beta program for a fair while now. And again, this is only available on Windows. This is one thing to when I use Windows, because I'm trying to build up my PC gaming collection anyway for later this year. So I'll pop on to GeForce Now to play some of my PC games. Again, it doesn't come up, last time I checked, it didn't come up with an error saying your connection is not stable enough to play GeForce Now. Didn't happen to me, it just let me get on with it. Yes, it came up with a small warning, but it didn't say this game is unplayable. It just said you're on Wi-Fi, it may not be for best quality. Now, that was when I was using Wi-Fi on my computer because I didn't have the Ethernet set up through my house. So that I can forgive. Yeah, this is as you can see, this is kind of where my quarrel with Stadia really comes in. The fact that it's saying that my Ethernet connection. Now, this was only the first time. I did try it again afterwards, and it worked. And if I'm correct in saying, I think it actually did work fairly decently. I can't remember if I actually made it into a game or not. No. In fact, I tried to load it into a game. It actually crashed my computer. Yeah. So again, another red flag. I think personally, it might be my connection, and I am going to give it another go after recording this. However, from what I can tell of Google Stadia, so far I have not seen an experience that is smooth enough or works well enough to be used even on a regular basis. xCloud, I can trust it. It's a known developer, it's Microsoft. It's just going to be tied into Game Pass, so I don't have to worry about them cutting it off. Google have literally today announced that they're shutting down Surface. Now, it was only a trial service, and in the era of COVID I can forgive this, but the fact that Google has a massive history of shutting down projects when they're not making it enough money. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to get into gaming, but I don't have a game console, I don't have a PC that's powerful enough, my recommendation right now is if you have a phone and you can get access to an Xbox controller. I know they're expensive, you can get access to any kind of wireless gamepad, whether it's Xbox or even a PlayStation DualShock controller. You can get access to either of those. I recommend signing up for xCloud beta preview and going with that. Yes, it's a beta, but honestly, it's more stable than, I would definitely say it's more stable than Stadia at this moment in time. Again, this is my preliminary 1 week, using it a couple times, just kind of getting so frustrated with it that I can't really play. So my initial impressions of this service are that it's not going to be the best experience. But I still recommend, if you're someone who's willing to sign up for a free beta trial on this, definitely give it a go. It's a free beta. It is free. Stadia Pro is free for 2 months when you first start. So you've got an Xbox controller, give it a go for the first 2 months free. Start your subscription and then cancel it afterwards. That way, even when you start it, you don't actually pay anything. So you can basically sign up for the subscription, you go into Google Play and you cancel it. But so you still get your 2 months free, but then you won't have to pay anything after your 2 months. But so far, I would still say, I would definitely say that I recommend you not to buy any actual games on Stadia. So, this could change as time goes on, but so far, my initial impressions are not very high. Anyway, this is the Dynamic Digital World. We've had some pretty interesting stories over the last week, and tomorrow is Sunday, so Father's Day, and it's also weekly roundup. I know I didn't do one last week. That was just due to timing issues. This week it will be on Sunday morning, will be weekly roundup. Sunday evening will be just Sunday stories. So the weekly roundup will include stories from Monday to Saturday. Then there'll be 3 stories that have all come out on Sunday. If there is much tech news, I'll admit today's was not the most dazzling, but it's kind of a world we live in at the minute. I'll do kind of 3 to 5 stories in the roundup, and then hopefully a maximum of 3 in tomorrow's daily episode. This has been Dynamic Digital World. Thanks for listening. Hope you've enjoyed.